Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Just let it go. Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vidyagatcharya Astatara Tatasi Simadis Divine Grace Isi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki We not finished, but we discussed 3 chapters of Madhurya Kadambini. And the first chapter was describing how bhakti begins. And the second chapter was discussing the first 3 stages of bhakti: Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and Bhajana Kriya. We heard some details about those 3 stages. Then yesterday, we discussed the 3rd chapter on anarthas, and I said I would give a little bit of additional time this beginning of this class for anarthas, since it's such It's so relevant, so important stage for us. It precedes the next stage, the steady stage, nishtha. Maybe I'll just ask important points about anarthas vritti that you can remember from our discussion yesterday. We'll start with that, I think. What are some of the outstanding or most significant parts of anarthas vritti that you can recall from our discussion? Yeah. Okay. There are 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name. The first of those offenses is very dangerous, offending devotees who are at any stage of devotional service. Yes?
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains there are two categories of offenses. Namaparad.
There's two what?
Two categories of offenses.
Two categories of offenses.
Namaparad and Sevaparad. And then he tells that Sevaparad are nullified by chanting of the holy name. So, but it should not be, like, we should not do offenses thinking that chanting will remove it, otherwise it becomes offense against the holy name. And then we discuss in detail about Namaparad.
Okay. Yes. Yes, sure. Why not?
Anarthas come from 4 different places.
Thank you for doing a summary. Very good. Okay.
They come from sinful activities,
Yeah.
from pious activities,
Yeah.
from offenses,
Yeah.
and from bhakti successfully performed.
Very good. You must have looked at your notes.
Yes.
That's smart. Look at your notes. Prabhupada once said, in Kali Yuga, to remember, it means write things down. Just as Vyasa wrote the Vedas down so we could remember them. Okay. Yes?
Even if we feel we haven't committed namaparad,
If you feel that you haven't committed an offense to a devotee, if you feel you haven't committed namaparad, or if you feel you haven't committed offense to a devotee?
namaparad is what I said.
Okay.
That the lack of symptoms of ecstasy can be taken as evidence that namaparad took place.
Okay. 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 Mukunda, you got a big smile. Didn't raise your hand, but you smiled. That was another raise your hand.
He was telling me to say something.
Oh.
That point at the end that a devotee might experience many hardships, but that it can be taken as the mercy of Lord Krishna, because by taking these things away, he's depending more on Krishna.
Have you experienced any hardships in your life?
A little bit.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, hardships. Okay. Okay. Anything over here? Anything to add? Or they've covered everything that you can recall? Kalyani, anything?
Steve got one.
Okay.
I remember that if we're wondering why all of our sinful tendencies haven't been eradicated, because I've been chanting the holy names every day, and the holy name is so powerful, so I should expect my sinful tendencies to be gone by now. It's because if the holy name is displeased with us because of the offenses we're committing, he can withdraw his...
The name is there, but Nama Prabhu was checked out. Okay. Okay. You're newly participating in this discussion, so this is all new stuff. The topic, especially for anyone who's here for the first time. You're also here for the first time. Okay. the title of the book that we're discussing is Madhurya Kadambini. Madhurya has to do with the sweetness, let's say, keep it simple, the sweetness of devotional service. So it's describing stages of devotion from the beginning. This is Rupa Goswami's teaching. Do you know who Rupa Goswami is? You do? Okay, good. Rupa Goswami? Do you know who is Rupa Goswami? No. Do you know who is Lord Chaitanya? Yes. Lord Chaitanya had many wonderful devotees and 6 principal personalities who were requested by him to live in Vrindavan, Krishna's place of appearance and childhood pastimes. And there they wrote literatures based upon the instructions and teachings that Lord Chaitanya gave them. It was a service that he asked them to do. So one of the principal of those 6 was Rupa Goswami. And he wrote especially on the topic of the process, acting in one's relationship with Krishna, or the process of devotional service, or bhakti. That was his topic. Many other things, but that was the primary focus of his writings. Many generations later, 8, 9 generations of teachers later, was another great teacher, Acharya, and he took a little skinny book. He summarized a number of things about the process of bhakti. This is one of those. It's 9 stages. So he even starts before how does bhakti begin? And then the first 3 stages of bhakti, some faith, association based upon faith, Krishna sends, faith, preliminary faith being, I want to know what's real. And there's reality, there's something beyond all this. What's that? That inquisitiveness. Then Krishna sends somebody, a devotee, who's carrying devotion, and they give that devotion, the message of devotion to Krishna's what's behind all this. It's the means. And then they start doing those things, the activities of devotion, bhajana kriya. So that's the first chapter, second chapter. And then by engaging in activities of devotion, something happens. Things that are unwanted in the heart, they begin to become cleansed. And as they begin to become cleansed, then there are stages of obstacles in things becoming cleansed. And that's what we were discussing. And now what we're going to be discussing, chapter 4, is there's a stage where as things are becoming cleansed, there's the unwanted things of the heart are largely gone. They're still somewhat there, but so strong are the activities of devotion that the impure things can't prevail. Light is strong enough so darkness doesn't enter. That's what we're talking about this evening. So a little review of the previous chapter, this unwanted things being removed. There are a number of references that I'm not going to take a lot of time to read. Maybe what I'll do instead is, do we have like a secretarial person amongst the brahmacharis, and I could send to one person, they can circulate to the others and to the ladies? Huh? Himanshu? So can you, this side too? Okay. That'll save a lot of time. And it'll be nice for you just to read through. That when Prabhupada, let's just gloss quickly. Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, yes? So when he would often, just as our previous acharyas would do, he would speak about these stages of devotion. They're listed, the 9 stages, taken directly from a writing of Rupa Goswami. Here's the translation. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. That's adau shraddha. Shraddha means faith. This much. There must be a reality beyond the chaos of the world and life today. There must be. I have some faith that there is something. Then there's following stages. So when Prabhupada would describe these stages of devotion, when he would come to anarthas, some of the things that he would say, commonly he would speak about unwanted habits, and he would speak commonly about smoking cigarettes, or things that we really don't require. They're actually not even helpful for us, but some people are attached to them, and becoming unattached to them is desired. And of course there's other things besides smoking cigarettes that are not desirable. So then he would refer to the regulative principles that are unwholesome, and they inhibit the quality of goodness. Or say it the other way, one who is situated in the quality of goodness naturally is free from certain unwanted things. So how to get to that quality of goodness when you're not? That bhakti helps one get there. The converse can be said, that by cultivating goodness, it helps you get to the mature stage of bhakti. One helps the other. Like an example from the Bhagavatam. If you have dry wood and you want fire, you need to make the dry wood, if you have wet wood and you want fire, make the wet wood dry wood. And then it will ignite. So you put the wet wood near fire and it becomes dry, and then you put it in the fire and it burns. And if you just take wet wood and put it in a fire, it makes a lot of smoke. May even put out the fire, unless it's a big fire. So the process of bhakti in the beginning is like making wet wood dry. It's helping one come to the stage of goodness, where unwanted things in the heart, and with the unwanted things in the heart, unwanted behaviors, because what's inside comes out, become relieved. So he would speak of this anartha nivritti, eradication of unwanted things. He would equate it with those things that help, so regular principles. Following regular principles in devotional service helps. Then he would state the converse. It's not possible of understanding the reality of the self, just like this here, preliminary desire for self-realization. We will not be able to understand the self as the spirit soul. What to speak of then? He explicitly would speak about understanding one's swarup. Swarup means one's spiritual identity. One will not be able to understand that. There's a little morning walk conversation where Prabhupada speaks about that. Let's see if I can find it quickly. No. Yeah, here. Yeah. Devotee 1 doesn't give his name. Srila Prabhupada, when one returns to his Swarup, spiritual form, his natural form, how does, Prabhupada doesn't let him finish the sentence. First of all, anartha-nivritti. You are accustomed to so many bad habits. First of all, try to rectify it, then talk of Swarup. Where is your Swarup? Simply wasting time. A man is diseased, he thinking, when I shall be cured, I shall eat. Go to this hotel, I shall eat like this. First of all, cure. Then talk of eating this and that. Swarup, when you are cured, that is Swarup. So long as you are not cured, what is the use of talking Swarup? He's hammering. First business is to cure yourself. Anartha-nivritti, that is anartha-nivritti. Then Swarup will come. That is the Babajis in Vrindavan. You have seen? Siddha Pranali, Pradumna, Siddha Pranali, Siddha Deha, Prabhupada. They are smoking and having illicit sex with 12 women, Swarup. And so forth, some other strong language. So where is your Swarup? Don't talk unnecessarily. First of all, come to Swarup, then talk of Swarup. Devotee. So our motivation should be to get free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Prabhupada, that is already explained. But you must be determined how to execute devotional service. Without determined devotional service, how can we attain that position? What is the use of utopian talk? First business is anartha-nivritti syat. Then he goes through the list of this verse. You adopt this means that you've got full faith that Krishna consciousness will save me. Then you live with devotees who are similarly determined. Like the question was asked yesterday, what does it mean, like-minded devotees? And then automatically everything will come. Tato nishtha. That's this topic. So before Swarup, anartha-nivritti, don't expect all these. Then there's a nice quote from Canto 2, Chapter 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, where it's describing the process of meditation upon the form of the Lord. You know, the Lord in the heart, that chapter, Chapter 2 of Canto 2. And Prabhupada is, in the purport of one verse, equating meditation upon the feet of the form of the Lord in the heart as the anartha-nivritti, that one is the other, they're interchangeable. Nice. Then he speaks quite explicitly about sex desire and how sex desire is superfluous to the self, and one who becomes attracted by and then involved in sex activity, it takes away completely the determination for spiritual realization. Attachments on the material plane become strengthened, and so forth. To become free from anarthas means to be free of material affinity and miseries. Then after anartha-nivritti, that's this nishtha stage, one cannot give up attachment to Krishna. Of course, it's possible that one can, but one's fixed. And what's that other nice quotes? The bhajana kriya, we mentioned this from chapter 2. Bhajana kriya, this is activities of devotion, devotional service. Almost universally, Prabhupada would include initiation in that category, and then following initiation comes anartha-nivritti. So he would say, he's speaking in a lecture that verification that one is initiated, not just there's a ceremony performed, but when the submission and the acceptance has taken place, is in fact anartha-vritti is evident. One is not again returning to the material affinity program, but is progressing in the spiritual attachment program, and by that, unwanted things on the material contamination side are slackening. And then only after the anartha-vritti stage can one aspire to follow in the footsteps of the devotees in Vrindavan. For those of you that are a little familiar with Rupa Goswami's writing, Nectar of Devotion, there is a stage, it's mentioned actually in the chapter 1, the little shoot that appears as the bhakti creeper appears. There's 2 leaves with an upper and a lower surface of each leaf. The upper surface corresponding to spontaneous devotion, and the rough side on the bottom of the leaf is the regulative devotional service. So the spontaneous devotional service includes following of the perfected souls who are residents of Vrindavan. So Prabhupada's statement here is, only after anartha-nivritti can one enter that stage, that spontaneous stage. One cannot understand Krishna or engage in his loving service unless one is purified of anartha. So it's very, very significant step. Now I apologize for being disorganized, because something that I wanted to do, hopefully I'll get it together before I resume on Monday evening. But there's a nice chart. I wanted to project it, but I'll just say it. There was some question about how does the stages, 9 stages of bhakti correspond with other things, madhyama, kanishta, madhyama, and uttama. So for those of you that are a little new, beginning, intermediate, and advanced, that's easy. Beginning stages of bhakti, that's the kanishta stage. So this is a chart that's taken from the Mayapur Institute of Education, MIHE, higher education. And I've seen different charts, so this isn't like the definitive word, but the beginning, the Shraddha, the faith, association with devotees, and bhajana kriya, just the beginning stages of devotional activity. This corresponds with the kanishta. To enter into the madhyama stage is where the anartha-nivritti comes. Are you with me? Did I lose anybody already? You follow? Kalyani, you got it? The beginning stages, the introductory stages, the beginners are over in this faith, devotion, association of devotees, devotional practice. Shraddha, bhajana kriya. Shraddha, sadhusanga, bhajana kriya. And then for the middle, or the madhyama adhikari stage, it's quite a long range. Anartha-nivritti, which we discussed yesterday, then nishtha, which we're discussing today, and then above that, taste, ruchi, and attachment, asakti, there's 4, is in the madhyama. So to go into the higher stage, the uttama stage, that's bhava and prema. Is it clear, or should I do it again? Who wants me to do it again? Okay. For those who are in the beginning stage, kanishta, before reaching the middle stage, madhyama, in the kanishta, the preliminary faith, like this one that's on the screen here, desire for self-realization, association with devotees, in the association of devotees engaging in devotional activity. Kanishtas may commonly be found in that area, those three. Madhyama is where anarthas are being, now for us anarthas are being eradicated even before someone is doing sadhana. Just take prasadam or pass by the kirtan party and hear the holy name, or maybe even sit down and chant a little bit with the Harinam party and take a book. So it's not rigid, not buckets like I was saying the other day. But when anartha nivritti is taking place, and then following that steadiness and following that taste and attachment, that's the range of madhyama, generally speaking. And then one may move into the topmost stage, or uttama stage, in the bhava and prema stages of the 9 stages of bhakti. Okay? This chart shows something over here on this side, which is, some of you may be familiar from the Bhagavad Gita, of the explanation is found in Taittiriya Upanishad of the different Anamoya, Anamoya, Pranamoya, Jnanamoya, Vijnanamoya, Anandamoya, from Bhagavad Gita. What verse is that? 13? No. Which? Huh? Chapter 13, text 7 or something like. No, it's toward the end. Anyway, there's stages of consciousness, like a child, an infant is oral fixation. Everything goes in the mouth. Anamoya, everything is food. And then making a distinction between animate and inanimate things, and then, successively stages of consciousness. So, I don't know if it's so important, but this nice little chart, until one comes to the stage of bhakti, the anamoya and pranamoya stages are prevalent even for one who has no bhakti. And the jnanamoya is the beginning stage of bhakti. Vijnanamoya is equating to... One more time, go ahead. Okay, good. Nice sound. Jnanamoya, Vijnanamoya corresponds with that middle stage, and Anandamoya with the upper 2 stages, bhava and prema. Again, this is MIHE, and they're corresponding or correlation of different stages of bhakti and different stages of consciousness from the Taittiriya Upanishad and Nectar of Devotion. Okay, so let's go on to chapter 4. So where we are in chapter 4, this is... Huh? Yeah, but let me do something before you ask your question. By the execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free of all material attachment. That's the chapter 3, that's anartha nivritti. Then this one is attains steadiness in self-realization. That's what we're going to be speaking about, chapter 4. Go ahead. Slowly.
Yes, Maharaj. You've explained many times that...
The beginning of your sentences are always slow. Nice, good speed. It's when you get to the end of the sentence where you have to be kind to me.
The different stages are not like buckets.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very fluid.
Right.
My question is, anartha nivritti is happening, as you also mentioned, from the very beginning.
Yeah. And
Yet,
up to the very end.
up to the very end. Yet, there is also not exactly a bucket, but something like a bucket stage called anartha nivritti.
Yeah.
So, could you help me just understand a little better the difference between the process of anartha nivritti and sort of the stage or the period of anartha nivritti?
Congratulations, you did a fantastic job speaking slowly. Haribol! Keep practicing. So, it's a stage, it's not a process. I mean, as a process, well, let's say, the process is the description of what's going on, and that means the process is what the term says. Anartha, things unwanted, are being eliminated, nivritti. That's the process. So the elimination of things unwanted is the process. But it's in a following the devotional practice, just the stage previous, is one vigorously, actively is engaged in practices or activity of devotion, bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya. And when one does so, it accelerates, and very dramatically accelerates eradication of unwanted things. And therefore one gets what is described in this verse, nashta. I don't have the verse in front of me. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu. Same method. Is it in chapter 4? Srinvatasvakata Krishna. Okay, then the next is nashta prayeshu abhadreshu. So this is describing, the Bhagavatam is describing attaining the stage of steadiness. So how does one come to the steadiness stage? By, verse number 17. Srinvatasvakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantagsto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Saritatam. By hearing and chanting, bhajana kriya. Then that's where anartha nivritti is taking place, by those bhajana kriya, those activities of hearing and chanting. And that those activities of hearing and chanting, they continue in the more advanced, superlatively advanced, topmost advanced stages. So cleansing is continuing. So it's a stage, but it's also a process. Does that kind of answer your question?
Supposing he did not mention anartha nivritti.
Oh, come on, give me a break.
Supposing supposing he just listed bhajan kriya and then nishta, because it seems like intense bhajan kriya is what leads to nishta.
Well, if we're taking nominations for acharya, we'll see how many votes you get.
I'm just curious what that adds.
Why does Rupa Goswami let's do it in reverse. Why does Rupa Goswami put Narta Vritti after Bhajana Kriya? Because, as already stated, when you engage in devotional activities, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, it accelerates eradication of anarthas, and so it comes after. It may happen before, just by the association of a devotee. And they're just carrying devotion. And they've got a picture of Krishna by their computer. And they're, praying to Krishna, they're, whatever it is. So the persons around that workplace, they may get benefit just because there's a devotee next to them or near them. He's meditating prior to bhajana kriya. Deliberately taking up practices. Jai Jagannath is going to help me. My wheels are spinning because you've still got that thing on your forehead that says, I'm not sure. He's got it.
As a process, like what I'm understanding, as a process, anartha nivritti is going on from the very outset.
Yes, from the outset.
But as a stage, like the anartha nivritti stage, it seems to be referring to a huge bulk being destroyed by which you're able to attain nishta.
Yeah,
So
you're
as a
just saying the
stage-
same thing I said in
Exactly.
different language, but he's saying, well, why then just leave it out. Let's just make 8 stages of bhakti. Since it's so expansive. I didn't hear what you said.
The word acceleration makes it clear. When you use the word acceleration,
Yeah.
it made it clear.
Okay. Whew. Are we ready for chapter 4? Okay. Chapter 4. So, those of you that have the book, you can look on the first page of chapter 4, where it has these 2 verses, and I just recited them, but the first, that's text 17 of chapter 2, speaks of bhajana kriya. And from bhajana kriya, that's activities of devotion, hearing and chanting, something happens. The abhadras, the inauspicious things within the heart, become cleansed. That's the anartha nivritti. That's text 17. And then text 18 speaks of nashta prayeshu abhadreshu. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu. Where prayeshu, it's a nice word, it means almost complete. So you notice in these charts that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has kindly provided, almost, and then complete, and then absolute, like stages of eradication of anarthas. So this verse, text 18, some people like to ask the question, or it's a common question, how come almost? Why not completely? And the answer is, it's a stage. So we could skip almost and just go on to the next one, but it's a stage. Almost to nil. And the significance is in that this stage that we're speaking about, the nishtha stage, it's where bhakti is so strong that the residual unwanted things of the heart are overpowered by devotion. There's some residual, but bhakti is so strong, it's fixed, it's steady. Okay? Nishtha means, hey, fixed or steady. Nishchalyam means, it's a similar word to nishtha. Naishchalyam means non-movement or steady. Chala and achala. Moving, moving and non-moving. The living entities have these 2 kinds. Plants don't have legs, so they're non-moving. And then those that have legs, 4 legs, 2 legs, 100 legs, they have legs, so they're moving. So the moving, and so naishchalyam means no movement. And that has to do with, the anarthas have been nearly eradicated, and so they're not impelling one into impure activity. Purification is not complete, but sufficient. Then the converse is, as long as anarthas are present substantially, then one isn't steady. The nishtha stage hasn't been reached yet. So, how do we get to that stage? And here's how we get to the stage. One may attain this steadiness just by, even when there are obstacles or faults, we continue persistent in our practice. And here are some of the things that are obstacles or faults, that when these, there's 5 of them, when these are overcome, and they're successive, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, then we can overcome the unsteadiness and become steady. So laya means mental inactivity. So it goes from grosser to more subtle. Some people fall asleep in kirtan. I sat in a class one time, I won't tell you who was the speaker, but he fell asleep while speaking. The audience was doing all right, but the speaker fell asleep. That devotee isn't around anymore, but so it's a kind of unsteadiness. And then when one may become sleepy in the class, that's another. And then one may be sleepy during japa. And it happens, especially if you don't get sufficient rest at night. But then also if you're, if there's contaminations of heart, then it's not so difficult to fall asleep when chanting. Vikshepa is, so you're chanting or you're reading or doing some devotional activity and your mind is distracted. It goes here and it goes there and those kinds of things. That you haven't fallen asleep, but distracted. So overcoming distractions is important. And then pati is disinterest in, or that's stronger than indifference to spiritual topics. So overcoming that is when there is opportunity for spiritual topics, one's interest is aroused. So distraction is when there's options, my attention goes over there. And this one is when there isn't something else over there, it's just all you have in front of you is devotional activity or devotional topics, and there's indifference or distraction. Then number 4 out of 5 is bad habits. So sometimes some bad habits we can let go of quickly. Some bad habits we have a tendency to hang on to. Feeling angry, maybe somebody in the audience has had that feeling sometime, and holding on to it is it's an inhibitor for steadiness in bhakti, or greed, or pride. Pride is like a real common one. And rasas vada is the last one. Residual taste for material enjoyment. Some of you may be a little bit familiar or have read the book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur on Harinam Chintamani. So at least you've heard the title. And in Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a description of anarthas or impurities that arise from a different set of sources. This was in chapter 3. Sources are the 4 things that you very kindly listed. For Bhaktivinoda Thakur's list, one of them is asat trishna. Asat means temporary or impermanent, and trishna means thirst. So thirst for the impermanent, is a type of anartha, or it's the source of anarthas in the heart. So it's same as this. Residual taste for material enjoyment, which distracts the mind from absorption in kirtan. And, you can think of examples. Especially those devotees that like kirtan, and anyway, it's distracting when persons who are participating in kirtan really aren't present, and you can sense it. And conversely, when someone is really absorbed in kirtan, you can sense it. It's very, very nice. It's very enlivening and enriching for the kirtan. So, the chapter goes on. Vishwanath, the author, goes on. There are two types of nishtha, or steadiness. And one is steadiness in bhakti itself, and some say that there's steadiness in the affect of steadiness in body, steadiness in words, steadiness in mind, and then amongst authorities, spiritual authorities, some say the steadiness comes first outside and then steadiness inside. Some say it's the other way around. If you have an eagerness to serve, that steadiness will produce steadiness outside. So there's difference of opinions. Surprise. So steadiness may be achieved in elements favorable to bhakti, like, we spoke about this, giving respect to others, humility, mercy, friendliness, without having actually become steady in bhakti, sakshat bhakti itself, devotion itself. There may be behavior that resembles steadiness when bhakti isn't yet steady. So it's an analysis matter that's being presented here. Most important out of all of this is what we really want is steadiness of bhakti, because when steadiness of bhakti is there, you will have steadiness of these secondary things. That's our general position. Steadiness in bhakti itself. And then he concludes, only one who is wise and experienced can recognize the difference. When there's some steadiness outside but not a steadiness of bhakti, versus one who is steady in bhakti and therefore has steadiness outside. It's an interesting point. It's not like a critical, essential point. It's an interesting point. The important thing for us is we're the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not the International Society for Regulating Behaviors Society. So there are activities that are helpful for bhakti, and therefore we accept them, we adopt them, we assimilate them, we live by them. But that's not the essence, we should understand. The essence is the devotion itself, sakshat bhakti. Okay. There's only 2-3 slides remaining. This is other aspects of nishtha. He speaks of, this is like a refrain. Each verse has something on this topic, because there's material consciousness of I and mine, and in the steadiness, there's a pervasive sense of a spiritual conception of self and a spiritual conception of what is I am using in Krishna service. I see it not as mine in a material sense, but see it as paraphernalia or something that is useful for Krishna service. Like I look at all those mridangas sitting over there in the corner. Probably somebody brought each one of those here. Like one of those is one of you brought here, Mukunda, or 3 of them are yours? 2, okay. So he knows which are his mridangas. But when he's not here, it still sits here, right? And sometimes people use it. It's not like, hey, you used my mridanga. So but it's something that he's taking responsibility for. Like this morning you were fixing one of them. So, you get the idea. These are deities that Prabhupada personally installed. So those devotees that are worshipping the deity, Kishore Kishori, they're doing so on behalf of the person who installed them. That should be the consciousness. So it's a service anyway, you get the idea. Not like my deity. I remember when I first moved into a temple, just very similar to what Himanshu did. He had a car, so I had a car. And in those days, because in fact, I drove all the way from my university to the Boston Temple. And then it was like, the temple treated it as my car. It was registered in my name, the insurance was in my name. And one day, we were living in Boston, so the devotee that was in charge of the press and the printing of Prabhupada's books wanted to drive all the way to the printer, which was in Kingsport, Kentucky. And he forgot to put oil in the car. And the engine froze. It seized, finished. Then he had to take a bus back. And then I remember very clearly the conversation was Satsarupa, then Dasadikari, asked me to come out to the porch of the temple. Alston was where the temple was, in Alston, Massachusetts, part of the city of Boston. And gave me the bad news. He said, I'm really sorry to tell you, the engine seized. And he was surprised by my reaction, that I didn't freak out, oh, you ruined my car, I'm going to let you guys have it or something. And because I just wanted to go out on Sankirtan. Okay. Then 2 days later passed, so the car had to be towed to a junkyard, and they wanted to send me by bus to the junkyard so I could sign off on the title. And then when I came back, there was a reception waiting for me, and then he apologized that I had sent you alone, because the word was, he may never come back, you burned out his car. And when I didn't freak out, when I came back, they were like, wow. But already, it was nice. I was already thinking, this is Krishna's car. And the fellow that did put oil in the keep the oil thing filled up, it was negligence. But anyway, it's Krishna's car, and I was just it's going to be used in Krishna's service. Anyway, there was a degree of detachment because I was thinking of it as it belongs to Krishna. And then the opposite is there. If you think something belongs to you, this is I and mine, then there's lots of anxiety about maintaining your stuff and that kind of thing. But to the degree there's absorption in bhakti, the mind conception is still there, but it's yours to be used in Krishna's service, and it's a whole other way of thinking. It's a whole other way. So you're conscientious in another way, that this is to be used in Krishna's service. As Krishna has entrusted this to me to be used in his service, it takes on a whole other dimension. Detachment from the material sense of proprietorship or possessiveness, but a spiritual sense of this is to be used in Krishna's service. I hope you get the idea. Like the temple room, or the bathroom. It's a communal bathroom. So, it's not my job to clean the bathroom. If some trash on the floor, just walk by, because it's somebody else's job to pick up the trash on the floor. I got some other service. But if we're thinking this is Krishna's, you get the idea. You're in the mood of service anyway, and here's some opportunity for service, so you do some opportunity for service. And if that's the mood collectively, it's nice. Then we're in a spiritual community. Anyway, so this is a symptom of nishtha. There's the spiritualization of the I and mind conception. Still, there's traces of modes of ignorance and passion, but they can't act. They're dominated by or overwhelmed by the influence of devotion. And as far as the mind is concerned, some other topics may come, but where steadiness is there largely, one is meditating on your devotional service and the messages of bhakti and the teachings of the scripture, and that's your meditation. Whoops. As far as material attachments, his teaching is still present, in fact, prominent. Now, last part here. How to determine if someone is on the platform of nishtha. You hook them up to a nishtha meter. See what the meter says. No. See whether they're intense in their endeavor to hear and chant, or if they are slack. You same for yourself. If they are steady day after day, and intense in their effort to be attentive in chanting, day after day, hearing, and other forms of devotion, then anartha nivritti will progress quickly. Himanshu. And offenseless chanting will be quickly approached. Such sadhakas are approaching the stage of nishtha. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's 5th chapter. Summary. The laxity, this is a summary point. This is like overall, if you want to overcome offenses and you want to become effective in your devotional activity, effort. You may use this technique, that technique, something else, but the essence is not just the technique, it's the intensity of your effort, striving sincerely, as well as the difficulty or ease in hearing, chanting, and doing other devotional service. These are the criteria for entering into, as well as evaluating, nishtha, or steadiness in bhakti. Okay, we're at 7:41. Any discussion? Wow, that was quick. Do we have microphone somewhere? Oh, there it is. He has got big, long arms. Wonder whose arms are long, yours or Jai Jagannath? Jai Jagannath, really long arms too.
So, concerning one of the slides, I think it was like 3 slides back.
3 slides back?
Yeah.
Okay. That one?
The one before
more?
that.
Before that?
Yeah.
That one?
So the second bullet point, it says, as long as anarthas are present, one cannot be steady. But it also seems like anarthas don't go away until you're steady. So I was wondering if you can talk about this point.
As long as anarthas are present, one cannot
be steady, but until you're steady, anarthas don't go away.
But what?
Until you're steady, anarthas don't go away.
It seems like unless you're steady in your practice, anarthas won't go. At the same time, this is saying unless anarthas go, you cannot be steady. So it seems like kind of like a catch-22.
Yeah, it is. Better take association of devotees. You know, it's a little bit like, you know, someone was asking, I think it was Himanshu was asking some question like this. Somebody was asking a question. You know, this comes before that, and that comes before this, so it's a contradiction. It's not, you know, one helps the other and vice versa. The steadiness of practice helps the anarthas to become removed. Steadiness of practice helps the anarthas to become removed. But as long as there's anarthas still present, that steadiness has not yet been achieved. So it's striving for steadiness allows anarthas to be removed. Until they're fully removed, that steadiness isn't going to be fully attained. Bhakti, go for it.
Hare Krishna. You prefaced the discussion of this chapter with the point that, well, some quotes from Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, and the point that until one has surpassed anartha-nivritti, one should not consider or cannot consider the practice of spontaneous devotion. I noticed in the 4th chapter, and you mentioned this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that some say that the progression through anartha-nivritti into nishta, some say that eagerness to serve the Lord in a particular manner develops first, due to the individual natures of the devotees. And then, well, and their bodily, vocal, and mental strength, or it seems nishta, may vary. So it seems that at least some experts are proposing that for some devotees there is scope for being conscious of and even practicing some degree of this spontaneous devotion in the stage of anartha-nivritti. Does that sound like an all right interpretation of that phrase, or what do you think, Maharaj?
I think we've had this discussion before. Going back to an earlier chapter, this is a nice point and an important point. Going back to an earlier chapter, there was some discussion about two types of bhakti, spontaneous and regulative, and the regulative are those who are impelled to serve Krishna, stemming from or resulting from association with saintly people and the strong messages of those saintly people, and now they're ready and impelled by that association and those nice instructions to serve Krishna. And some are spontaneously interested in serving Krishna, even before cultivation of raganuga bhakti, just spontaneously like to serve Krishna. Jiva Goswami speaks like that also in one very wonderful purport, where he says that the desire to serve, even when there may not yet be sadhana, but the desire to serve is it's at the brink of bhakti itself, even before there's sadhana. It's like somebody they may like to take prasadam, and they may also like to serve prasadam and clean up after prasadam. They just like coming doing that, or they just like serve, or somebody comes and they like to go in the pot room and clean the pots. They like to do some service. That kind of inclination is not yet following a particular resident of Vrindavan type of cultivation, but just they like to serve. But they like to serve. It's a spontaneous attraction for the mood of service. They like that there's happiness for them in that. So it depends, Bhakti Luke, on the person, and is there scope, your question specifically is there scope for someone to, in the stage of anartha nivritti, be cultivating the spontaneous kind of devotional service? That's your question, isn't it? Did I understand your question correctly? Is there scope for that? Is there, according to some authorities, is there support and scope for that? Is that your question?
Yeah. With regards to a specific mood of service.
Well, it depends on what that specific mood of service might be. In other words, Mukunda liked kirtan.
By mood, sorry.
Okay.
By mood, I'm referring to one of the 5 rasas.
Yeah, okay, just like seeking clarification.
Yeah. I would ever think of doing such a thing, Maharaj.
Huh?
Not that I would ever think of doing such a thing, Maharaj.
Of course not. It's just a theoretical question.
Totally.
Totally. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure.
That's
I mean,
all right.
I can think of some argument to say yes. I can think of some argument, more arguments to say no. So if I could think of some argument to say yes, then there's some scope. But as an exception, not the rule, but some exception. Especially based on what you just read. Then, on the other side, specifically, a strong preponderance on behalf of our founder Acharya, who's instructing the members of Iskcon, as members of Iskcon, that piece of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that's those who are followers of Srila Prabhupada within Iskcon, he's making it very clear where he wants our attention to go. He wants our attention to go clearly to the anartha nivritti, and those other stages will come as the anartha nivritti becomes matured. So that would be, a preferred response. Even having said that, is there scope for someone who isn't yet at that, nishtha stage, fully matured, nashta prayeshu abhadreshu stage? Is there scope? Well, that's not what our founder Acharya is advising us, but is there scope? That wasn't the question. Is there scope? Maybe.
Was there any other information with regards to the context of this particular instruction, like the devotee in question?
That's a good point. It's a good point.
It's just
good point. Very good point.
Quite relevant.
No, it's relevant. It's extremely relevant. I'd rather have this discussion offline, and I've had a somewhat similar discussion with Jai Jagannath on occasion, and with references to Narada Bhakti Sutra and purports there that speak about this topic, and there's scriptural references, and then there's other scriptural references, and
I'm very satisfied with your answer. Thank you.
Jai Jagannath wants to jump in. Oh, thank you.
I think it's in the next slide.
point. But I was, because we live in a community, and oftentimes the qualities which are favorable to bhakti, such as humility and so on, those are easily appreciated by other persons in the community because they may be pertaining to them. You are humble with them, you're grateful to them, and so on. Whereas being steady in bhakti pertains exclusively to Krishna, and oftentimes may not always be appreciated in the community because it doesn't pertain to them. I mean, we're conditioned souls, false egos and all that.
Yeah.
So, although it's not a major point, it seems that it is important for us to understand this particular element because we live in a community and we tend to measure one another on the strength of those secondary qualities.
Yes.
And then judge a person's devotion based on that.
Yes.
Because I've heard many statements amongst our community, not here, just the community means Iskcon in general, all over the world. What is the use of your kirtan if you're not humble? What is the use of your shravanam if you're not grateful? Some statements like that. And so, which may not be exactly accurate as we're hearing from Sri Vishwanath here. So I was kind of just opening a conversation for that, because we do live in a community and we do size each other on these secondary qualities and then judge a person's devotion based on that.
Well, you've heard me speak again and again and again and again and again and again and again on we're not the International Society for Behavior Modification Incorporated. We're the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and that's the real measure. And you know, the persons that want to measure it by some other way, you know, that's going to go on. It's going to go on. And at least, you know, those that wish to be, you know, clear and mature in their devotion, in their, you know, progress of Krishna consciousness, they, A and B, should be cautious about judging based upon externals, and B, don't be disturbed when persons are judging based upon externals, because then we're no better than the person who's judging based upon externals if we're disturbed by those who are judging. It's like Prabhupada's statement to Bhakti Swami about people, there's racial prejudice in Iskcon. You're no better than they are if you're disturbed by it. You're on the same platform. So don't go on that platform. And one of the ways to displace dysfunctionality is functionality. You know, by acting and being situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness and not indulging in that and not being disturbed by, you know, but that takes Krishna consciousness to not be disturbed. It's like amanina manadena, same. Offering respect without expectation of anything in return. That's greater than offering respect, as not expecting respect in return. Not easy. I mean, it's a spiritual position. And then one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Then there's attraction. And that this real sense of shelter in the holy name, when those things are not what we do and we're not disturbed when other people, you know. Mukunda.
Questions, and I also have
two
one
online
question.
questions plus yours. Okay.
Yeah. One is from Advaita Charan Prabhu. He says, Hare Krishna, relating to the question by Luke Prabhu, Artha Pravriti is as important, if not more at some stages, as Anartha Nivriti.
Which is more important?
Artha Pravriti. Artha Pravriti.
Okay. Okay.
How much emphasis should be put on either?
Do you understand the question?
He's taking a term from Chaitanya Shishramrita, Artha Pravriti, which generally refers to the stages after Anartha Nivriti. So the statement was Artha Pravriti. It's just as important, if not more important, than Anartha Nivriti. I think he's quoting something. And so then he said, how much emphasis should we put on either Anartha Nivriti or Artha Pravriti?
Well, It's a, if I've understood the question correctly, and it's quite possible I haven't, the question in principle sounds like, how important is it that we're just focused on what we're doing versus how important is it that we know what comes after what we're doing, where we're headed, where this is going to take us. Both are important. We know the goal, the outcome, the fruit, and that we're very careful in doing what we're doing to get to where we're going. We need to know the goal, or even the next stage. We have to have some idea. Just like when we're involved in bhajana kriya, or devotional practice, it's important to know that a byproduct of this is impurities are being removed. And then the byproduct of the impurities being removed, or a stage, is we become steady, and the impurities aren't going to predominate our lives. That's something that's going to come. So it'll give impetus to do the anartha-nivritti nicely. So both are important, but be in the moment. Be present with what we're supposed to do, while you know where it's going to take you. Does that answer the question? Ask our fellow, Advaita Chandra is asking the question? Advaita Chandra.
Advaita Charan, yeah.
Okay. Huh?
He said yes, it's clear.
Okay, go ahead.
This is from Prahlad Nrsimha.
Prahlad Nrsimha. How do you vote, Prahlad?
Seems like the anartha nivritti stage is so long.
Yeah.
How can one not lose hope and enthusiasm?
By staying closely packed up in the association of devotees. Just like an image that I like to think of as coals. You can have a coal over here and a coal over there, burning coal, but you put them all together and it gets, the flame comes because the heat gets more intense. So if we, and if Prahlad, if you, as you're continuing your spiritual life, practicing in the association of devotees, make sure you keep close association with devotees as you are practicing. Some solitary activity is also nice. You're reading and you're chanting and you're something. But then coming together with devotees is also very nice. And it'll help the accelerate and enhance the anartha-nivritti process. Both have their place, but we really do need the association of others that will help us stay focused and complete the course. And then you have a question.
Yes, just at the end you gave that example of yourself, Maharaj, when you gave your car to use for the devotee and then he made a mistake by not putting oil in it. And I was just thinking, yeah, in that instance, I guess maybe perhaps the car wasn't so crucial to the activities of the temple or something, but because I was just thinking, sometimes something will happen where it's very crucial to the ongoings of the mission. For example, what comes to my mind is if the temple only has one mridanga and somebody does something stupid and it breaks, then, particularly if they do something stupid, if it's like an accident, I don't know, maybe that's all right. But if they do it like something like that.
This was negligence. It was gross negligence.
Yeah.
This is a guy that runs a printing press. He knows you have to put oil in the printing press. You're going to break the printing press if you don't put oil in the printing press.
Yeah.
And he was in Maya. That's what happened. He was distracted by Maya, and that's why. And this was at a time, I'm getting a little animated here, but this was at a time when, this is like the really early days of the Hare Krishna movement. We didn't have cars. They would pick Prabhupada up in the airport in a taxi because we didn't have cars. And there was a car. It was like, this new bhakta that moved in a few weeks ago and they borrowed his car. So it was a pretty serious boo-boo.
Yeah.
From the temple side. I was only speaking about, the sense of possessiveness, not, was it acceptable negligence?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that there's still situations where it's right to, strongly
Sure.
reprimand.
Oh, yeah. Well, the president did it.
Yeah.
And so did his wife at the time. She was, yeah.
Question on this slide, actually.
This one.
Yes, following up to Jai Jagannath Prabhu's questioning. So I understand when you're the first form of steadiness where it's about sort of the externals cultivating without really having that steadiness in bhakti. But it's the second point that I'm struggling to understand. Conversely, one may be arrogant or otherwise contaminated while still being fixed and steady in bhakti itself. Maybe if you could clarify my conception that being fixed and steady in bhakti, some of these qualities that are described above naturally arise because we
They
start
didn't arise, they're lingering. They're lingering contaminations. Like the blades of the fan continuing to spin, like that kind of example.
So wouldn't, though, the quality of like humility or mercy or even friendliness start to exhibit itself? Or you're just saying, though, with the example of the slowing down of the blades, that let's say, arrogance is there, but just in diminished proportion?
Yeah. Proportionately, and, in some cases, it's not certainly all cases, but in some cases, someone, an undesirable quality may linger longer. Sounds like a rhyme. Linger longer. It may happen. It may happen. However, because you're using the word proportionally. However, so that's some indication to the person where some undesirable quality may be lingering longer than they would want it to, or it's happening with everybody else or something like that. Where should their attention go? They have to run over there and deal with that other thing, or should they continue focusing on bhakti? And then the answer, my reply would be, they continue focusing upon bhakti, and from that strength, they attend to it, with the faith that it's bhakti, not their effort, that's going to remove that lingering tendency. So there may be some additional resources or something. Somebody's, take some anger management thing, or someone, with a grahasta counseling thing or something. But the core attention must be the core sadhana bhakti. Anything else isn't going to be effective without that core sadhana bhakti. And with the core sadhana bhakti, other things can become helpful if there's something lingering. Does that address it? Okay. You're good, lots of questions. Anything over on the ladies' side? Questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In chapter 2, there was a mention about spiritualization of I and
Mention about
mind.
what?
Spiritualization of
Spiritualization of I and mind.
Where the bhajana kriya had two types, steady and unsteady. So, does it mean that we have some theoretical knowledge of
Something like
that, and here it will be more realized knowledge?
Something like that.
Okay, thank you.
So, there's theoretical and there's practical. So I can understand theoretically something in the beginning, but it may not be so fixed and, so permanent. Yeah? And then intermittent and off and on. Okay? Anything over here? Okay. We're done? Yeah, last question?
Not a question, just a request. Can I see the last slide?
Last slide, okay. Somewhere, that one here?
Yes.
You like that one? This is one of my favorite messages out of the whole book. You just want to write it down? Okay. Yes. Well, I'm working on, yes. Yes. I'm working on arranging some time for studying just the first of the Sandarbhas. And I'm finding that it's so voluminous and it's the skinniest of them.
Back and give a lecture series on that also?
Well, I have to consult with my consultant. Where is he? Huh? No. Anyway, on the thing, I'm thinking, schedule-wise, to spend a substantial time in December, because normally I do something else in December, but I was thinking of spending substantial time. And what topic? I hadn't even thought about it, but prior to being here, Thanksgiving weekend, I will be speaking from Tattva Sandarbha, unless, the sky falls on my head or something. That's my plan. So I could just do a part, rerun over here, or something else. What would you like me to do? Just do it again. Do it there, and then again do it over here. But it's okay. That's a possibility. It's live, and it's going to be recorded, both. So you can get 2 for the price of 1, instead of 1 for the price of. Say it again. That's another option. That's what I was thinking. Do something else. Let's see what happens. Himanshu is my coach. He's giving me suggestions. Okay. Huh? Srila Prabhupada ki? Yeah.